Hi, everyone. This is Assemblymember Robert Rodriguez, and welcome to MNN's Represent NYC. And we're here to talk about a very important topic for not just the community of East Harlem, but really for communities all across the state and by extension all across the country. We know that as a result of COVID-19, we had a significant disruption in our economy with literally hundreds of thousands of people across the state that were left without work and unemployed. And we know that we have been addressing a number of those issues through unemployment assistance, which coupled with what we're talking about today with our rental assistance program was really meant to get the economy back on track, to get people some important support while we were all dealing with the COVID pandemic, and while we all are dealing with the COVID pandemic as we're in the midst of a second surge in many parts of our country. So I think it's important for us to talk about what the state and the federal government put in place to address this. So when we speak specifically about the New York State Emergency Rental Assistance Program, we put this in place as of Tuesday, June 1st, 2021. And it came off of a pretty long discussion in the Assembly around budget time, around how much money we could dedicate to this program. And we put almost $2.3 billion towards rental assistance to try and make sure that we fill some of the gaps in terms of what has happened. We know that we have people who have not been working for the better part of a year, who have fallen behind on their rent and are in need of assistance. This was federal support that we received, and that as a state, we are responsible for getting into the hands of the people that need it most. When we created the legislation, we tried to prioritize communities that have folks who are low income, to make sure that they got the support before folks that may need it a little bit less. And that's part of the mechanisms that should be in place when we talk about what's happening there in terms of prioritizing the program and making sure it gets to those neediest folks. But let's fast forward to today, because that was the battle to get the program set up. We dedicated the money. We put in billions of dollars to hopefully get to communities that need it, to individuals that need it, so that they do not get thrown out of their home. This was about preventing evictions. This is about making sure that the renter isn't penalized, that the property owner isn't penalized, for what is a pandemic that is out of people's control. And we just try to, make everybody as whole as possible considering the circumstances. So that's a little bit of the background, but this program, as I mentioned, started on June 1st. It has been slow to roll out. Anyone who has been reading the papers has certainly heard that. There's a hearing today on August 10th to talk about in the Assembly how this program has been rolled out and ways that we can better effectuate the delivery of money into the hands of landlords to help renters who are in arrears. So I'm going to take a quick pause and introduce our guest, who is Dianne Johnson, who is the Division Director for Community Outreach Services for Catholic Charities of New York, who is really boots on the ground, working with renters and different property owners to try and get the application process in place. And I will, and she will have a lot of information on that for how do we go about encouraging, getting people to fill out the paperwork, what are the challenges with that, what her experience has been, and where we go from there. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dianne.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dianne Johnson, as the Assemblymember Rodriguez mentioned. Catholic Charities is one of many providers that is rolling out and launched the new New York State Emergency Rental Assistance Program, which we refer to as ERAP. I'm going to open up my screen to walk you through some of the pertinent aspects of this program. What is ERAP? And just giving an overall understanding of the program. Again, as was mentioned, this program is a federally funded program where $2.7 billion was given to the full state of New York to provide emergency assistance for those families that were impacted by COVID-19, particularly as it pertains to rent and utility arrears. So again, it started on June 1st, 2021. It is really for those people who are, again, were affected, could not pay their rents because of unemployment, because of disability, because of just the lack of enough resources to be able to pay the rent as it pertains to the COVID-19 pandemic. Again, this program does not prohibit people from applying for other benefits, but people will be encouraged to apply for ERAP first. And I'll show you in a few minutes because it's such a wealth of dollars that are available. But it doesn't mean that you can't still apply for a one-shot deal or other housing benefits, but you will be encouraged to apply for ERAP first. And then if ERAP is not really covering all of the pertinent arrears, then you're eligible to apply for other benefits. But I'll get into that in a few minutes. Renters at 80% of the area median income. There are sort of schedules that will show you that median income for a family of about 3 is about $59,000. So if you are sort of below that amount for a family of 3 or a family of 4, then you would be eligible. But there's a schedule that you can see and finding out what your income level is in comparison to the 80% of area median income. At least one member of the household has to receive unemployment benefits on or after March 13, 2020. Applicants are eligible to obligated to pay rent, just the amount of the rent that's due. They will not be able to receive rental arrears for anything beyond the actual base rent. So late fees, any kind of landlord other fees will not be covered. It's going to be the base rent, which is due over the past 12 months, that will be eligible. And then of course, households that are at risk of experiencing homelessness, again, due to a factor of the COVID pandemic. So what is actually the benefit? Applicants may be eligible for 12 months of rental arrears on or after March 13th. Applicants will also be eligible for up to 3 months going forward to cover additional costs in arrears or moving assistance. The benefit is about overdue or future rent costs and utilities, but households cannot receive more than their monthly amount. So you'll be getting 12 months of rental arrears, but is again going to be based on your base rent. It will not include late fees or other fees that are applied by the landlord or property manager. Any funds that are provided through ERAP are grants, they're not loans. So people do not have to be concerned about having to pay this back. And payments will go directly to the landlord or directly to the property owner or the utility company. Tenants will be notified via email regarding the payment that has been made. Again, households must certify, and there's an attestation document that people can sign to say that they were affected by COVID, they lost their jobs, they experienced reduced hours because of COVID, or difficulties, hardships because of COVID. There is a documentation that's called the COVID-19 Impact Attestation Form that, again, you can fill out and sign confirming your situation. Risk of homelessness. This includes notice of arrears. If you're in housing court, you received a letter from the landlord, or if you received a notice from the courts. Again, the magic date is March 13th, 2020. That is when it will kick in. Arrears that have been accumulated prior to that date can be covered by other state or city funded programs. But if it's after March 13th, all the way through the 12 months, you will be covered through ERAP. But if I received a notice from my landlord and he noticed, or I had not paid rent since January of 2020, January and February can be paid by like a one-shot deal or through Homebase. And then March going forward, that funding will be covered through ERAP. This program is only for renters. So unfortunately, if you're a homeowner, you will not be eligible, but it is for those who are renting. And it could be a Section 8 rental. It could be where you have other benefits that are helping you with your rent. As long as you have a lease and you are the leaseholder, you will be eligible to receive ERAP funding. So how do you apply? There's a number of different ways that you can apply for this funding. Anybody and everybody can go online directly at OTDA's website and start an application. What the city has done and what the state has done is they have identified a number of providers that can serve as helpers, liaisons, support service in order for us to help tenants and residents apply online if they don't have the resources or the equipment or the understanding of being able to complete an online application. So Catholic Charities has been awarded contracts to cover all of Manhattan. There are other providers that are covering other areas such as Brooklyn, Staten Island, and even the Bronx, but Catholic Charities has been contracted to support those residents in all of Manhattan. We are part of a coalition of other agencies, and I'll show you the list in a few minutes in order for you to understand it's not just our staff, but we also are working with other agencies in order to make sure we're really touching those hard-hit areas and targeted communities. Again, the state has a hotline where you can actually call and they can help you, assist you as well in completing the application, or if you have some technical difficulties, the state number is there that you can call to, again, either get assistance in completing the application, or they can help you with some technical assistance or questions that you may have. The program is slated to end in 17 months. So it's a 17-month contract from June 1st, 2021 through September 22nd, 2022. Some of the documents that you're going to need in preparation, whether you go to a provider's office to prepare the application, or you're doing it at home on your own computer, or you're calling the state. These are some of the basic documentation that you'll need. Some form of identity for you and all of the household members. Social security numbers, for everyone that is in the household. Proof of address, you could be a lease or it could be a Con Ed bill, but you will need proof of address and residency. Income for everyone in the household that is age 18 and above. Just for the year 2020, again, for that period from March 13th onward, they're looking for income during that period. Proof of rental amount, again, that could be on your lease, or it could be on a lease agreement that you receive or a letter from the landlord that you receive. Copy of your gas or utility bill will be very helpful. Again, this program will cover not just rental arrears, but it also will cover utility arrears as well. You can only apply for utility arrears along with your rental arrear application. Unfortunately, you will not be able to apply just for rental utility arrears on its own. So it has to be a sort of combined package. Some of the documentation that the landlord is going to have to verify, because this is a sort of a two-phase process. An application can be started by a tenant or a resident. Information that has been submitted will be verified by the landlord. The landlord also can fill out an application or start an application for one of their residents or tenants, and then the landlord or tenant can complete the application when available. The landlord will have to complete a W-9 tax form and provide that information as well. Executed lease that they can also show you as being the primary tenant. Documentation of the amount of the arrears from the tenant from that particular unit, and banking information to receive the direct deposit payment. And this is basically, again, the landlord sort of working with us and working with tenants to ensure that those rental arrears are being covered. So submitting the best application, some of the tips that we've learned along the way to really make sure that your application is submitted properly and efficiently. There's no delays as far as denials or returning information because of missing documentation. So some of the things that we've noticed in submitting a really good application is try to do it from a desktop or a laptop. Don't try to use your cell phone or a smartphone. Be sure you have an email address because that's the primary way they're going to be responding to you in regards to your application. Be sure to sign the application. And this is where people who are on their own may not be as familiar about signing documents online. So that's where we can come in and really be of assistance. Catholic Charities actually has two computer labs that we have set up, one in our Midtown office at 1011 First Avenue, and another location in Central Harlem at the Kennedy Center, where people can just walk in and actually use our computers to set up and complete their own applications. We have part-time workers that are there in the rooms to kind of help our residents and tenants kind of get on and have any questions about applications or technical assistance. We do have staff available that can help them along with the process. Double check that all required documentation and information is included. Don't be so quick to click that send, kind of relook the application, make sure that all of your information is there, it's accurate and it's up to date. Remember to submit the application. And again, once you do, the landlord will be notified, you will be receiving confirmation of your application. And then technically, I think it's supposed to be 3 to 4 weeks, you should be receiving some notification about your application. I mean, again, that's our goal, and that's the overall goal of this program, is really to make sure that everyone has the right information about this program. Those who are vulnerable, tenants that are really unsure about their status, such as immigration status, or people who are doubled up, and to really access those questions. That's what we're here for. We want to make sure that everyone, no matter who you are or where you live, you have the right information and the resources to really help you fill out a really good application. We want to create stability so that we're able to really continue seeing people and families grow and really enjoy the benefits of living here in New York. We want to prevent homelessness, and we also want to prevent displacement. So some of the things that we also can help with is, again, understanding the eligibility requirements for this program. Again, using an online portal can be very challenging for people. So we're here to help assist with that. Uploading of documents, again, because this is an online application, some people may not be familiar with assigning or uploading documents onto an online portal. We want to make sure that that application is complete and has all the pertinent information available. And then we want to be able to just make sure that if there are people with language barriers, we want to be able to kind of connect you with resources that can walk you through the application in your native language. So as I said earlier, these are some of our consortium partners: Little Sisters of the Assumption, Northern Manhattan Improvement Corporation, New York Disaster Interfaith Services, Nazareth Housing, and University Settlement. So as you can see, our footprint is pretty much in most areas within Manhattan, from Upper Manhattan, Midtown, as well as to lower parts of Manhattan. So we really tried to make sure we're covering all of our bases and making sure residents throughout the entire borough are being supported and receiving services. Again, this is a list of all of the providers that have been granted contracts through OTDA. So you can see it's a very lengthy list of all the providers that have this OTDA ERAP contract. So again, our outreach efforts really started on June 1st or a little bit before June 1st, because we really wanted to get the word out about this program. We have done a number of these presentations to other community-based organizations. We have a team of outreach workers on the street, going, knocking on doors, really making sure that NYCHA buildings are informed about this program, tenants, property managers. We are utilizing our connections with elected officials. We are utilizing our connections with community-based community boards. So we really want to get the word out in very different ways. We want to make sure school children are aware of it, non-English speakers, low-income persons, again, undocumented immigrants, and just people who may not even just trust the government for whatever reasons. We're really trying to be creative in our outreach efforts and making sure that everyone has the information. So again, this is our main contact information for Catholic Charities. If there are any questions or comments, I would love to try to answer them.
Great. Thank you, Diane. I appreciate the presentation. It's very thorough. And I think there's a few things I'll point out to folks is that while we are focusing on renters, there is a separate program that the state created for homeowners, right? So we'll have another segment speaking specifically about our homeowner assistance program, and the hundreds of millions of, I think we put $100 million approximately towards helping to support homeowners. And of course, we can adjust that as needed depending on demand. So that program is separate, but it is rolling out as well. Another point is with regards to eviction moratoriums. And I know that we have a deadline that's coming up shortly on August 31st. I would suspect that, considering the program is slow to ramp up thus far, that will be extended. So please, everybody, stay tuned. I expect that will be the case. However, what's even more important is by beginning this application, by beginning this hardship process, we built in legislation that does not allow for an eviction to move forward if either you or the landlord has begun this process. This process is one of the better processes to provide legal protection as well as financial support to those renters who are potentially facing arrears and evictions. So we want everybody to do this. We encourage people to do this. And, in addition to the providers there, elected officials have opened up our offices to help our constituents navigate this, and there are, as Dianne mentioned, countless nonprofits who work with their individual constituencies who are trying to help them navigate this process. So Dianne, let's be frank as well. You're on the ground. What's gone wrong with this process so far? What's important for our viewers to know, for the legislators to know? What's the preview of what we're probably going to be hearing on the at the assembly hearing today, that we'll have time to digest. Just let people know kind of what to expect in terms of things that are getting worked out.
I would say sort of what has gone wrong is probably two main issues. We were notified of our contract, and this is applicable to most of the providers. We were probably informed of our contract very short notice. As you said, the program started June 1st. We were probably notified of our contract, I think around June 5th. And we had to ramp up like immediately. And staffing, technology, so if you don't even know that you even have the contract, you're going to have to usually wait until you get it. And then, you're given time to kind of ramp up. And the second thing that has really been probably the biggest challenge is this portal. We, again, as providers, were not given access to the portal until a little after the 1st. So we had to become familiar with the portal ourselves before we could even kind of answer questions from people who are trying it on their own. And now that the portal has been up and running for a little while, there's still a number of glitches as it pertains to documentation, certifying or getting confirmations. And I know that OTDA is working on it very diligently, but some of the lags in the process really have to focus on the portal, the technology, and again, living in a city where there are a lot of people who are not as familiar with applying for things online, particularly seniors, that is a huge hardship for them. And so that's one of the reasons why we're targeting some of those communities and some of those areas, because we know that just working on the computer is a challenge for many people.
Well, I know for sure that's an issue, and it sounds like we're going to have to address that with giving people more time to navigate the system, and to do that. I know that we also heard, from OTDA and OTDA, was that they had to get enough applications to begin to prioritize them in the way that the legislature requested. We didn't want to first come, first serve, strictly on its face. We wanted to make sure it was first come, first serve with a prioritization for people who are making 50% of AMI and certainly below 80% of AMI. So I think that slowed us down a little bit, and I think we're that's been one of the issues that we heard from government. Now, from property owners, we heard a lot of folks who are like, well, we put in our applications and we're still waiting. Yes. We still haven't heard back. And so I think the communication in terms of incomplete applications still needs a little bit of fine tuning. Is there a better way to identify the landlord or the renter when something's missing and needs
Mhm,
action in order for it to move forward? I
mhm,
know that there's a
mhm.
number of folks in the queue on that. If you were, going to get one message out to the folks who are figuring out what to do and where to go, what would you tell them?
I would say, try to go to one of your local community-based organizations. Going through OTDA is good, but I think you'll get a much more uh, down-to-earth, really direct answer from your providers that are in the communities. We're going to really be able to kind of walk you through what's happening. We can sit down with you, look at your application, make sure that it has all the right information, and then help you put in the application in the portal, well as uploading your documents, which can also be a bit of a challenge. So utilize your community-based organizations. Talk to OTDA is fine, but if we're in the community for you, and that's what we really want you to access is our services and our supports.
Thanks, Diane. That's really important. Also utilize your elected officials because they are the folks, whether you're a property owner or a renter who can, interface with OTDA and figure out what's going on with your particular application and how to move that forward. So not just my office, but any of your assembly members or state senators or council members can help assisting in that process. So I just wanted to, of course, say as we're struggling with the expiration of the eviction moratorium, as we're continuing to deal with challenges around COVID, unemployment. Thankfully, it seems like we're getting to the point where almost 900,000 people are coming back into the workforce last month, and people are starting to get back on their feet. That we don't burden them with what we know is an incredible amount of rent for many industries, hospitality industries, travel industries, major segment, restaurant industries, major segments of our economy were shut down for a while, and people have been carrying that burden of rent for too long. And this is the way to deal with it to make everybody, as whole as can be. So, but it doesn't happen. There has to be some control. The last thing anybody can do is say we gave out $2.7 billion and we don't know where it went. So that's why there's a little bit of accountability in terms of making sure the documentation is there, that there is an attestation that you were impacted by COVID. We want to have a chance to get the money where it needs and to do it right and to not have it go, into the wrong hands. So that's why there's a process. Now we've got to make the process better, and we've got to be able to get this money into the hands of those people that need it. So I just wanted to say thank you to Diane and the team at Catholic Charities for the work that they're doing in Manhattan, to all of the partners who are helping to facilitate the ERAP program. It's incredibly important. We have, so many people, literally billions of dollars of arrears. That is the single biggest drain on our economy that we can and should take action to alleviate through this program. So I just want to, of course, thank you all for being there. Thank you for the work that you do, and encourage everyone to please. The program is not ending, but it won't be successful unless you sign up if you are in need. So sign up for ERAP. And I'm your Assemblymember Robert Rodriguez, representing East Harlem and Barrio. And thank you for being here with me and with MNN.